Welcome, Melissa Balin, on our channel. Sunday evening, our main criminal show is running just in this moment. About 15 million spectators watching the crime of the week. And we have the official alternative show. So we have to beat the 15 millions. And of course, we have to talk about something. Melissa, yes.
Cheers.
Might be you could introduce yourself for those who don't know your back story yet.
Well, give thanks, Hanf den Planeten retten. Forgive me because your viewers who remember me know I don't speak German. However, the Germans speak great English. So thank you for caring and sharing and listening. And we love you from Hollywood. Hollyweird. Here we are.
Hollyweird. Hollyweird. Why is Hollywood Hollyweird in this moment? Is it because of the plug or?
It's always been pretty weird and different. However, now things are really apocalyptic, for sure.
So how can we we are very brave normal Germans, and we cannot imagine something in the US is getting apocalyptic. We have seen a lot of movies from Hollywood about this kind of situation, but can you explain, are the dispensaries still open?
Yes, actually, it is unprecedented times. And if only Jack Herer were alive to see these days, may he rest in power. Collectives, dispensaries, cannabis, sativa L has been declared an essential service in the United States and in many places worldwide, except for places where it is still prohibited. So we know that there is still work to be done to actually end slavery. And part of this is a pleasure to return to the scene of the crime. I know you thought today would be an alternative, but it really is a crime how cannabis was prohibited. It's actually re-legalizing cannabis that we're doing. So while we're very lucky on the West Coast, there's still work to be done. There are still places where cannabis sativa L, the scientific name, or pot or marijuana, cannabis hemp, is illegal, whether for smoking or wearing as clothes. So this is the work that we still have to be done. But in some places like California, even Connecticut, it's declared an essential service. Education and schools are closed, but cannabis dispensaries are open. Who would have thunk?
Okay, this is of course very, very interesting for us, and still a lot of us are trying to receive a prescription for a medicinal cannabis, and of course we are very, very keen on the situation dispensaries for also recreational cannabis would open here in Germany. And we are far away from that point that some president would say, "Oh, it's essential shop for our system." But yes, this is true, of course. But tell me about the real situation on the street or in the dispensaries. Is the grass now more expensive than before the crisis, or is there any changes in the assortiment?
Well, as you see here, this is I have to wait for cannabis. I decided to grow my own. Shout out to Apothecary
Grow your
Genetics.
own. It's always the best. You know exactly what's inside.
But it's going to take a couple more months. So this won't even be ready before the Hanf Parada. So it's not April Fools that hemp could save the planet. It is April Fools that I can smoke this. But this is the Mac Zaddy, the Zaddy Mac. Forgive me, the Zaddy Mac. The Grape Zaddy Mac. That's what this is. Can you see this? The Grape Zaddy Mac.
Wonderful. And we are waiting till you can harvest it. Uh,
Me too.
still,
Me too.
tell me, is the grass now more expensive than before? I mean, when I have been 2 years ago in LA, it was already pretty expensive. It has the same level like Amsterdam, even a little bit more, I would say. And Amsterdam is a touristic city, and they have higher prices for cannabis.
Tot zines, I haven't been to Amsterdam since the last time that I saw you for the premiere of Jack Herer's Emperor Wears No Clothes in Amsterdam. It's almost a decade. Greetings to the Netherlands, Tot zines. However, yes, we're having big issues here in California. We're spending more in taxes even if you have your medical marijuana prescription, that reduces the taxes. However, Jack Herer, may he rest in power, would tell you we shouldn't pay 1 cent of tax for a medicine. Dennis Perone, may he rest in power, would tell you all use is medical use. So there is a major disconnect between the hypocrisy of recognizing cannabis, hemp, marijuana as a medicine, as a preventative, as a vitamin and a nutraceutical, with the hypocrisy of paying taxes or not allowing compassion. Only in March did they finally recognize the Dennis Perone Brownie Mary Compassionate Use Act. And as of today, what day of quarantine is it? Anyway, whatever day it is in 20. To my knowledge, only Cornerstone Collective in Echo Park, hey, shout out to Echo Park, is offering a compassion program for those in need, whether they're homebound or trying to honor. I personally, knock on wood, if you do that, am healthy, zero symptoms, as they say. However, I'm staying with senior citizen parents. So it's like a game show. If I leave the property, if you touch something without washing your hands. Only in this game show, life is on the line. So whether we do it for ourselves, whether we do it for our loved ones, or many people who have been aware of cannabis as a medicine have been aware for a long time about preconceived conditions, preconceived notions, and pre-existing conditions. So in this situation, we have to protect our most vulnerable. And that is why it's so important that cannabis has been recognized as essential. That is why it's so important that we look out for each other. Dennis Perone said compassion isn't just a code word for weed. It's feeding each other. It's checking on each other's well-being and welfare. And this is something that, although California has had medical cannabis since 1996, voted by the people, Hollywood is not known for its compassion, the real definition of compassion. So this is why we say Hollyweird. This is why we say apocalypse. We're learning new ways to function. Maybe they're going to be better ways than before. Maybe it's a mess. However, it's a unique opportunity to reevaluate what are we using the plant for. A lot of people didn't know even the medical plant can provide paper. It's just not as much paper with this little stalk as it is when you grow it for paper on a mass scale. However, in California for 20 years, people were too afraid to even take this to the, for lack of a better word, to the dump, or where you take your waste. For 15 years, even while cannabis was legal, farmers could be raided for dropping the waste at the wrong place. So this is why, while we made so many leaps and bounds in terms of medicine, we're way behind Germany, Russia, China, even other countries that actually recognize the plant as a fiber, as a fuel, as
yeah, I think this is exactly the moment to mind also about Eastern Europe. Just yesterday, there have been a really big demonstration for legalization of cannabis in Kiev. So respect to Kiev. Please keep on legalizing also there. You have the chance, you have the possibilities. Just do it. Be one of the first countries to legalize it all and fully. Yo, thanks.
I want to
I know
thank
this sticker.
I want to thank our international sponsors, our strategic partners in more than seven countries worldwide.
Yeah, um, I love you. I mean, you kept our logo safe for many years, and this is you are really perfect Hollywood person. This is what is it? What is written there? You have to
Here it
turn
says,
it. You must turn it exactly.
I have it forwards and backwards because this is my first time using this camera, thanks to the 727 group. I had to borrow a media device. My own phone was broken, so I wasn't sure, Selfie Nation, if it would be forwards or backwards. We know that prohibition is backwards, and we want to re-legalize cannabis hemp because it was already legal for thousands of years. Some people don't know. I know that we're not talking about crime scene, but if you really want to get into it, we are returning to the scene of the crime when they made cannabis hemp illegal based on lies. It was actually lies in the 70s, before I was even born. They made cannabis hemp illegal. So thanks to Richard Eastman and friends, we're celebrating those that watch this on the replay. You have only a few days until the 4th of July, and it will be the first virtual Smoke in USA. So you can participate from wherever you are. And I think same with the Hanf Parada. We don't have to go to Germany this year. We can march in place, yes, wherever we are.
Yes, it will be digital as well. Not just in Berlin. You can save CO2. You can save to drive a car. You can sit back, roll a spliff, and take part digitally. Now, about the 4th of July, tell me, which edition is it?
Wow. So it is the 50th, 50.
Wow, so it's half a century. Can we imagine this? It's half of a century of making legalization demonstration in front of the White House, isn't it?
And we have some breaking news for Hanf Journal because we give international news to our viewers, whether they be Interpol or internet or interwebs. Hey, choose. We want to let you know, contrary to popular belief, there's a rumor that Allen Ginsberg, the famous beat poet, actually started the smoking at the White House 50 years ago.
Wow, wow. Greenspan, yes?
Ginsberg.
Ginsberg.
Allen
Okay.
Ginsberg, who wrote Howl, which is one of the most celebrated works of free speech, because Lawrence Ferlinghetti, the publisher, actually had to fight an obscenity trial. And again, this is such an interesting time in history. They used to say history is written by the victors. This is a saying they say all around the world.
Yes, yes. You can hear this also in Germany, yes.
It's just that they reprint it more. The losers also write history, and maybe the losers tell a more true history. So this is something interesting that we know who decides who is a loser anyway. Perhaps throughout history, who we thought was a loser is actually the truest of history to be told. And so now we have to go back and look at, well, is it really true, or it was just written by a liar who was the victor. So
Okay,
this is interesting.
so now we have just talked about it's the 50th anniversary of the protest in front of the White House. Now, exactly this weekend, on the 28th of June in 1968, no, in 1969, there have been the Christopher Street Day. So we're celebrating this weekend 51 years of Christopher Street Day, and we're celebrating next weekend 50 years of cannabis legalized movement. But
Wow.
now tell me, why the LGBT community has created such a success? I think even the right-wing politicians are going there on the parades of the gay lesbian community and promoting themselves. They have helped this community to grow, but sadly, they are not coming to the 50 years celebration of cannabis movement. Tell me, how can this be? What is wrong with our history?
Well, how much time do we have, and where do you want to
We
start?
have time. We have time. We are total pro-gay. It's not that I like the people to join and to live their own sexuality, but the question is really why are we so far behind with the cannabis thing?
That's such a good question, Emmy. I think in order to answer this question, we do have to return to the scene of the crime, for real. So when they watch the replay, when they're done with the current crime scene shows, they're gonna tune into us and replay and realize the crime occurred over 100 years ago. In 1937, when the cannabis hemp plant became illegal, it was legal for thousands of years before that. So this is similar to a lot of things, whether it be emotional slavery, financial slavery. The inequities surrounding this plant are a metaphor for a lot of the other inequities. It's happening right now in California, where Caucasian people consume cannabis at the same rates as people of color. Why are people of color incarcerated? You'd have to Google the statistics, but it's not normal. It's not a
10
normal
times more or
statistic.
something. I
It's
have looked the numbers and I was shocked myself. It's about if you are black, the reason to stay in prison is 10 times higher because of cannabis than if you are white.
so this is
Yeah,
what
this
we
is like we have also similar effect here. The police is more looking for the dark guys. We don't have that many black people on the street, but we have people from Turkey, from Syria, and they're getting checked more often than me, for example. This is in fact very easy for the police to create that crime. And still on the other side, 50 years ago, also in Germany, to being gay was illegal. So it was very easy for the police to find some gay in a place where he was looking for contacts and to punish him and to say, "Oh, I'm a cool cop because I catched 1 dozen gays this night." And it's still the same, but it's with cannabis. If you want to be a really good working police officer, then you're searching for the harmless smokers of cannabis because they they are not very aggressive. And if you catch one, you see, okay, you have marijuana with you, you get punished.
so we talk about this a lot, and people say they don't see the connection. And some of us feel and have seen for a long time it's all related, it's all connected. So this is very relevant right now, but for 100 years, if you look into it, the police have not existed for forever. Cannabis hemp has existed much longer than the police. Internationally, it's a different story. But if I'm not paid by Google, so I don't want to promote them too much. If you use DuckDuckGo or Bing or any search engine, look up, when did policing even begin? And it was never to protect the people or to protect and serve. However, for the past 100 years and the past 20 even, it's been used, policing has been used for civil asset forfeiture and other issues people are now waking up to that are unconstitutional. And of course, for places that don't have a constitution, places like Hollywood. Hollywood doesn't have its own constitution. Hollywood doesn't have a post office. It's not a real city. But everywhere I go around the world, I say I'm from Hollywood. They know what that is. They know where that is. Some people like Hollywood more than the United States. However, we have to acknowledge our role in complicity for the bullshit that is now. Is Hollywood responsible for people watching a movie and behaving badly? The court says no. However, when you get to a point where people are using televisions, or anyway, what's a television in 2020? But the phone, the screen, the interwebs, however you watch your content, if not a television, because you and I remember televisions, but the kids don't know what a TV even is. However, excessive TV is still on every platform. So if you watch TV and you use TV as a babysitter, which a lot of parents are doing, and now the schools are closed, so you can get cannabis, but you can't get education. So give thanks to the real journalists, the real news, the real independent citizen journalists who still share the truth, because most of the news now is less news than Entertainment Tonight. It's very hard to get real information. It's not hard on Reddit or on Twitter. That's real time. However, if you go to what used to be trusted sources, it is the recurring theme of the victors, whoever a victor is, wrote this fake history or herstory. In which case, why is this even illegal? In the places it is illegal.
And there is no reason for it when you really ask logically about it. But that's not the way politicians are thinking. They thinking we have to find a law for different topics. It don't have to be logical, but we must have a law. That's one of the problems. But now tell me. Because we trying to exactly ask for those kind of information, because we hear rumors about dispensary getting looted in US. Does it also happen in Hollywood? Is it true, or is it more like, okay, there was a wave of things happening like this, but now it's over?
Well, prohibition is over, and yet nobody even knows. So let's go back to the basic language. Unfortunately, there is a lot of confusion over what this word looting means. Mm-hmm. So sometimes we have to go all the way back to the common denominator. So here in the States, people are arguing semantics. What is even the definition of looting? Is looting to go into an open doorway and take things? Or is looting for Louisiana person? The whole land we're standing on right now in Hollywood used to be Tongva Nation. And you are one of the 100 people who actually, shout out to the International Pirate Party, put on Tongva land in 2011. And if you look, I know it sounds like I'm all over the map. If you look at what's happening now with has the autonomous region in Washington. You are one of the few people who know because you visited the sovereign freedom in 2011 and all, and they laughed. Thematic.
Maybe you can repeat the last sentence once more, because we did. Can you repeat the last question, last sentence once more?
Yes. If you know about the autonomous region in Washington State, they call it CHAZ, and the guy that they call the president currently in 2020 threatened violence against peaceful citizens for declaring a sovereign space, which we also did in 2011. And members of the International Pirate Party visited what was formerly known as LA City Hall. It's kind of interesting also, they filmed Ghostbusters there. If you remember the movie Ghostbusters, you can still find it on your various platforms. When they say who you're going to call, well, the movie took place in New York City, but movie magic, the end scene with all the spiritual warfare and goblins flying around New York City, that was actually filmed with movie magic at LA City Hall. And Laszlo Kovacs, rest in power, one of my greatest mentors, and if we can use profanity because we're uncensored, he would want to say, hello and lo fasa shegedbe, but that's very, very dirty, so don't repeat that. It doesn't mean how are you. That's aga shegedre. But anyway.
No problem in German language. We don't understand what you told.
I bet they do. Thanks to Laszlo Kovacs and Vilmos Zsigmond, we have some of the only footage of the Hungarian Revolution. They carried it on their backs as teenagers, as film students. And 20 years later, he filmed Ghostbusters. He's one of the greatest cinematographers of our time. And he might not be living on the planet now as some of our great inspirations, like Jack Herer. However, their message lives on beyond their physical bodies. And this is also true of this spiritual warfare or the lies about the plant. So to come back in a circumlocuitous way, the reason that this is so relevant is in 2011, we planted a literal seed outside of LA City Hall. We declared it an autonomous region. We even sent claims to the Human Rights Commission of the UN. Someday soon, I'm coming to Nuremberg with the help of real media, which is hard to find these days, but it exists in the world, if not in the States. We will finally be heard, God willing, and I'm not even that religious, God willing, we'll finally be heard in Nuremberg because we can't be heard in LA City Hall. However, we are on record speaking, and we said we refuse consent. Did it work? Not yet. However, this is how we know the system is broken, not a sign that we should give up. It's a sign that it's the system designed only to fistum, and that is broken. So we need to fix it. How do we fix it when people that are actual professionals, actually in charge, are full of shit, are lying, are breaking their very oath, and rewriting and revising history, pretending they're the victors? Well, I promised I wouldn't bring up the name of a few people who are legit fascists because we want this interview to outlast time and space and last forever. So there's an internet principle. It's only a matter of time before I bring up what's his face's name, but I'm not going to do it. Instead, I'm going to use another example. A lot of people have heard of Mussolini. when I lived in Italy, and shout out to Franco Loggia, rest in power, and Fai pace con cervello, ti voglio bene, they always said, yeah, Mussolini internationally, they don't regard him so much, so highly. But he built a lot of roads. Okay. So this is our history. He built a lot of roads. There's a lot of dead bodies underneath those roads. At what cost? At what point do we recognize it's not okay? So this is where we're at with the cannabis hemp plant. There's a lot of roads here in California. There's a lot of roads that were built. Now there's articles coming up about how racist even the freeway system is in Los Angeles. So can we go and tear down the 405? Oh my gosh, where would we even begin? However, to put our heads in the sand and pretend thousands of people, hundreds of people, even one human to die building the Golden Gate Bridge, and after they built a net, no one died? How long before we build the net? So I want to get back to your question about the looting, though, which is to say that here in California, there's a big difference between looting and organized crime. Also in Italy, we know the difference. Even in Germany, I don't know. Do they even have organized crime in Germany? The streets are so
We
clean
have
and
the
the
best
people are so
one.
clean.
We have the best one, you know.
The best.
Yeah, what is the best organized crime? It's not that one which you don't see. But tell me, we are about 15 years in delay of opening the new airport of Berlin, our capital city. You know,
I've been
15
there.
years of delay. What a fuck! What a fuck! The Chinese built airports about 21 year, and we are 15 year in delay in Berlin. So tell me another word, then it's organized crime. You know, it's just a little bit different organized.
This is
Maybe
very true.
they don't captains or they don't shoot at each other, but I was myself judge in when two companies have been accused because they made illegal contracts. One company won all biddings for the automatic stairs, and the other company won all biddings for elevators at this airport. Can you imagine? This is Germany. So it's not nothing exclusive you're talking.
Wow.
Just a lot of faces, you know. We are not used, for example, to go to the doctor and to pay the doctor extra money to be, but the corruption is on another level. Might be in some other European countries, there is still the need. You better pay some 10 euros at the entrance of the doctor. You will be served a little bit better. Yes. It's not happy land over here. But let's don't talk about Europe. Because this we have each day in the news, and it's a lot more interesting for us to know what's going on in US in real. Because the question is, you're Hollywood. You have that much power of information, of making the movies. So what is your influence on the next election? I mean, it should be in some 6 months, or what is going to happen in Hollywood, or what is doing Hollywood to, let's say, influence this election?
Well, some people, you hear that? That's the influence. The helicopters. No, we're so live. Okay, there are some people who say there isn't going to be an election this year because maybe we don't need the electoral college, and maybe we don't actually need a presidency anymore, because we should govern ourselves. But hey, that's a show for another time. So I want to say about the looting that if you look at Debbie Goldsberry's posts about what happened at Magnolia Wellness in Oakland, which is hours and hours from Los Angeles, but everybody knows the Bay Area and the Emerald Triangle above the Bay Area is where some of the best cannabis on the planet grows. So we all know this. So shout out to the Bay Area. We want to acknowledge that it wasn't looting that happened to the collectives up there. This is very important. And then we'll talk about this election, if it's happening or not, and what we can do. But it's important for people to know. That's why we were talking about organized crime. We are still waiting for the reports to come out. But it was not looting of people walking into an open doorway and taking cans, bags, or whatever this bullshit packaging that should be made of cannabis hemp, should be sustainable, should be recycled, and all of that. That's another story. How irresponsible. This is part of the price. When you asked, is cannabis more expensive? You can't even smell the flower anymore in the package. I do have a package to show you. It's empty because I smoked it all. But you can barely get a gram. There's taxes. You can't smell it. It's packaged up. It's still some of the best cannabis on the planet, and you can get it delivered now. It is essential. However, 5 collectives, dispensaries in the Bay Area were not looted. They were armed gunmen came in and robbed the collectives that were essential services, essential businesses, legal. This is not illegal. These people paid hundreds of thousands of dollars for permits, for licenses, jumping through imaginary hoops by the Cannabis Bureau of Fake Control, or whatever they're called. Not one of them received a call from the police department to tell them 5 other businesses had been robbed at gunpoint within 24 hours. They could have boarded up their windows. They could have closed for the day. They could have avoided that. So this is why it's important. The news says, oh, people are looting. Then some of us, is it a conspiracy? Is it a conspiracy theory? They say in English, it's not a theory if it's actually proven to be a conspiracy. So we throw these words around, it's a conspiracy theory. Okay, until it's proven that the guys in the masks, at a time when everybody's legally in California supposed to wear a mask or get $1,000 fine. So 2 to 5 guys, apparently no women, but guys came in with masks and guns and robbed the dispensary. That's not looting. That was a planned and organized criminal act.
Normal crime.
The police are not investigating. The Cannabis Bureau can't explain why they didn't protect the business owners. So if this fake system is not protecting the patients, it's not protecting the business owners, the not-for-profit people who have dedicated their lives, this fake system of social equity where people have been imprisoned at an unequal rate just for the color of their skin. Not just the color of their skin. Do you really believe only men knew how to grow cannabis for 30 years? So I want to say shout out to Steve Bloom and Celeb Stoner, who debunked that myth when they said they couldn't find more than 5 women to honor as being cannabis icons. He found 500. The list is now almost to 1,000. And some of the comments were so audacious to say, well, women didn't grow cannabis in the 70s. That's why. Are you fracking kidding me? Really? What is the chance actually that the women were growing the cannabis but didn't want to lose their custody of their children or their corporate jobs? Probably that's more likely that women were growing cannabis and they didn't talk about it than that really only guys knew how to grow cannabis. It's a female plant. Although shout out to the male plants, that's what makes the fiber and the fuel and whatnot. The female plants could too if they weren't afraid to dispose of the stalks for 20 years. If they even took the plant to the dump, they would be tracked. They would have unconstitutional raids on their property. So now journalists like John Oliver, more personalities than journalists, are able to cover or uncover some of these issues, talking about civil asset forfeiture. Why does $10,000 need a lawyer? But if you look at the court filings, it says the United States versus $10,000. The United States versus 3 motorcycles. So if Coca-Cola can be a corporation, so can this plant. Except if you even used the name of the plant, you couldn't get a bank account in the United States for a long time. What year is it now? 2020? Still can't get a bank account. So they spend a lot of time pretending what it's legal, what's the law. Oh, you can do this, but you can't do that. Here, hemp is legal, but not pot. Those words are just words. The actual scientific name of the plant is Cannabis sativa L. What if everybody went to court and said, oh, you're charging me for marijuana? I didn't have any marijuana. I had Cannabis sativa L. How ridiculous is that? Well, that's actually what jury nullification is based on in the United States. If we have the right to nullify an unjust law. It takes some time, though. It takes some energy, and some people would rather just plea out and go back to their lives because this is ridiculous. Well, when it gets ridiculous enough that everyone speaks out the truth about the past, present, and future of this plant and our lives and our true freedom, then maybe we'll all speak out about it. So whether it's California, whether it's Poland, whether it's the Czech, Czech, whatever we're Yakshemash, wherever we are, we have to speak out, speak the truth to power. And someday history and herstory will be written by the truth tellers and not the winners or the losers or the people who paid a fake control board for a fake license, for a fake permit. So one of the greatest stories of all time is Tommy Chong telling the story of Jack Herer and Tommy Chong getting the first medical marijuana cards in California. Now, if you look up the history, Wayne Juiceman is the first medical marijuana patient in California. Angel Rage is the first case as a patient in California. But if you look up Tommy Chong's Instagram, he'll tell you he and Jack Herer had the real first cards in 1996 because they weren't issuing them. Jack Herer called up Tommy Chong and said, hey, pot's legal. Do you want to get a medical card? Tommy Chong said, sure. He told this story on camera for me, and you can only see it exclusively on Steve TV, Hanf Journal, and Hemp Could Save the Planet until we syndicate it further. Okay. And Tommy Chong said, where do we get our medical card? And Jack said, come over to my house. We have to print them. They didn't make actual medical marijuana cards for more than a year after you could get them. Well, that sounds a lot like how in 1937 you could grow, 1936 you could grow cannabis hemp if you had a tax stamp. But they never made the tax stamp available. What if we just started printing tax stamps tomorrow? Would it be legal? Who's in charge anyway? And at what point do we decide, okay, you've made so many laws and rules and hoops for us to run around in a circle, but this is Cannabis sativa L, a vitamin. It's not marijuana. It's not illegal. It's been legal for forever. What would they even do? They would lose their shit. Maybe tomorrow we'll try it.
Okay. So now the question about the future. Maybe you can answer. What would Jack Harrow now recommend to do in the next half year? How to act? What to do?
Rest in power. Jack Harrow gave us a roadmap to follow. He made a promise that he would continue to fight the fight to re-legalize cannabis hemp all around the world. It's not enough for it to be legal in California or legal in Amsterdam or little safe pockets of the world. Shout out to Christiania, which is an interesting place I really want to go visit when I come to see you guys. And that's in what used to be Denmark. But it's its own little place, much like Chaz or the sovereign nation of freedom and peace. Jack made that promise that he would continue till he was in his 80s, I believe, 6 or dead. And God bless him, he died before he turned 86. But I believe he's still working with us. I believe his energy is still following through and haranguing us to do our part and remind us that it's not April Fools that hemp can save the planet. Hanf kan den planeten retten. So I took the Jack Harrow pledge. I'm nowhere near 86, and God willing, I'm going to live longer, as long as I can. The message will outlive me, though. Hemp can save the planet. It is just a plant. It's a fiber, a fuel, a paper, a plastic, a food. We have to explore that. We have to look into it. In 2020, it might be that, people, it's counterintuitive. They think you're not supposed to smoke, you're not supposed to inhale things. They don't actually know. So they're doing studies now to find out. My last interview in 2020 in Berlin, I could barely speak. I had no voice. I actually had pneumonia walking pneumonia when I was in Berlin. And people laughed and called me a schlampa because they didn't know who I was on that interview. But I took one hit of that vapor bag and my voice came back. And usually they use steroids for that, which are not good for your body. So what if at a time when people are dying on ventilators, what if it were true that respiratory therapies with cannabis hemp that they know works for asthma, what if this plant could keep people off of a ventilator? Isn't that worth a clinical study more than anecdotal evidence? So in the future, which is right now, we the people are demanding safe access to the plant. We're demanding the clinical studies that they lie and say we don't have. Those of you who followed my last interview in 2010 maybe also saw my interview at the public in 2010. And he's allegedly a fugitive for a plan. But back in 2010, 10,000 anecdotal of cannabis cancer. And the year I was born, which in Hollywood we don't say how old women are because we're ageless and youthful. However, you can Google it. The year I was born, the United States government admitted cannabis can cure cancer. It's 2020. Why are we still hypothesizing about this bullshit? Chemotherapy kills more people. They don't even have proof it ever cured cancer. I'm not a doctor, thank goodness. However, you don't have to be a doctor. You could be a filmmaker. You could be just nobody Googling it. The information is out there. So in the future, we want to acknowledge the truth, no longer perpetuate legit lies, including that this is not a medicine. If the US government has a patent that it's a neuroprotectant and an antioxidant, How many more years is the DEA going to lie and say it has no medical value? It's time to deschedule, let alone reschedule. However, when you interview Richard Eastman, he'll tell you rescheduling is the way to go because descheduling would never happen. Well, we're living in unprecedented times where things that people said would never happen could maybe happen. Let's pick and choose wisely what things we thought never would happen are actually going to happen. That could be interesting. A lot of us don't believe we have as much choice or power as we do because we've been told our vote doesn't count, our voice doesn't matter, no one's listening. That might be true in most outlets, but as long as we can find one real outlet to share the truth, we must keep speaking. We must keep telling the truth. They can take us off YouTube. They can take us off of Twitter. Then we'll chalk it in the streets. Thank goodness Soviet media will still share our message. Thank goodness we're virtual and we'll keep smoking and vaping and eating it. Jack here wanted you to know cannabis can cure cancer, but you have to ingest it. They don't have proof it cures cancer from smoking it. It helps with your attitude from smoking it. Ingesting it and topically for skin cancer is what actually cures it. We now know, but people definitely don't want to talk about putting things in your you-know-what, but we actually know that suppositories help with certain conditions that it can't get through the bloodstream and through the stomach as quickly. So rest in power, Hemp Man Dave, who wants you to know from the beyond that cannabis suppositories might be the way for some conditions. But even grown doctors giggle at the thought of talking about suppositories. If we can't have meaningful, real conversations without giggling, we're totally fucked. So we have to hang in there, keep speaking the truth, and let people know. You don't have to be a doctor to know the truth. You don't have to be a lawyer to know when people are lying. Shout out to the few lawyers and the few doctors who are telling the truth, and shout out to the people who are still risking their lives over a plant.
Okay, I think this is a good sentence for, let's say, a resume this evening, at least for tonight. We will forward once more the date for next week for the smoke out on the 4th of July.
4th of July,
yes.
Hashtag 4th of July, everybody. When they threw herbs into the Boston Harbor, this year we're throwing herbs in the Austin Harbor. Shout out to Willie Nelson. It's virtual, but we want to let you know cannabis, hemp, marijuana, cannabis sativa L, it's just a plant and it's our sovereign right wherever you are. So be safe and be well. Jack here wants you to know the truth about cannabis, hemp, marijuana. And so do I. I'm Melissa Balin. And until we meet again, it's not April Fool's that hemp can save the planet. Hanf kann den Planeten retten. Cáñamo puede salvar la planeta. And 7 other languages that you'll have to check in the comments.
Okay. And good point. I swap again the languages. So have a wonderful day today. It's a Sunday. The day is just beginning. Our Sunday is just ending, and we're getting prepared for working tomorrow. Yes, we have to compensate the losses of Corona lockdown and work hard. However, thanks you once more, and see you very soon again.
And we want to let you know we're preparing for your visit, and we have some California cannabis ready for you when you make it out here, hopefully December.
Super. Thank you a lot. Bye. Ja, liebe Leute, danke für euer Geduld und danke, dass ihr noch so lange durchgehalten habt, bis die Melissa in richtigen Hollywood-Style ein bisschen zu spät eingeschwebt ist. Das ist doch total normal. Keiner kommt rechtzeitig zum Date, ist halt Celebrity. Und ich fand es auf jeden Fall gut, mal was von der anderen Seite des Teichs mal zu hören. Und habt einen wunderschönen Abend. Ich hoffe, der Tatort hat sich mittlerweile aufgeklärt. Und geile Sache. Und tut uns leid für die Qualitätsverzögerungen und schlechten Sound und so weiter und so fort. Aber wir tasten uns ran. Die Technologie und die Digitalisierung geht voran. In diesem Sinne, bleibt uns gewogen und bis bald wieder, sagt das Hanf Journal und Exzessiv und der liebe Emmi und die Melissa. Tschüssi!